I would like to take you on a whirlwind tour of the materials I use. First stop, paper. Okay, this is called Taxi War Dance. I take the titles from jazz tunes and I take the paper from National Geographic's art catalogs, origami paper. I roll it, fold it, glue it, put it together like pieces of a puzzle. This piece is unusual for me because it's the only black and white in this series. I love color, but I also love lights and darks, light and shadow. It's called Savoy. Now, I like to imagine these pieces 4 feet by 6 feet hanging in the Parrish Museum with people taking selfies in front of it. Actually, it's 4 inches by 6 inches. I like to work small but think big. It's called Mysterioso. This is pen and ink. It's part of a series I did for several years, inspired by snorkeling and underwater life. It's called Deep Vents, which are underwater volcanoes. The original was 5 by 7 inches, but I also made digital prints and reworked them in acrylic. This is Splash, also pen and ink, a material I've been using since I was 6. My uncle Jerome was a sign painter. He let me sit at his drawing table, use his pen and inks and boards, and here I've added enamel. The piece is called Splash, but this is bubbling up. I was trying to capture the iridescence of underwater life. I found glitter glue, which added another dimension. I call this my glue period. I also discovered glitter glue doesn't adhere to all surfaces. It dries, peels off. That's what led to these pieces called suspended animations. They are mobiles made entirely of glitter glue. They have color, form, light, and motion, which is what I was looking for the whole time. That was the end of that series. And we are moving on to wood. This started out as a 100-pound block of rosewood. It's the piece on which I taught myself to carve. It took 2 years. I had to stop myself before I turned it into a toothpick. I call her Rosie. Well, then I took my chisels to Mexico when you could get chisels on a plane. I found this wood in a burned out fire pile on the beach. I think it's ironwood. I called it El Nino, which is the child, not the weather pattern. The color of the face was by chance. Now on to plaster, hydrocal to be precise. This is also carved, but you can't carve directly into a block of hydrocal. It chips. So I built a structure with hollow space that I could carve and sand. This piece and the next 3 were part of 4 exhibits I had in the windows of Tiffany's. This piece used a different technique. I built it up like a lasagna, layers of plaster alternating with layers of inflated balloons. When I carved into it, the balloons popped, creating interior space, which I then carved and sanded. These are ceramic pieces. Instead of using balloons to create the interior space, I used newspaper, which burns out in the kiln. The pieces were then Sagar fired in a pit, which is where they get their random black and brown coloration. These ceramic sea fans were part of my underwater series. The late, great Jean Moore filled all 5 windows with sand, which was a perfect way to show the pieces. Each window also had a single piece of jewelry. There is a small diamond seahorse floating. But now on to something completely different, miniature New York City apartments. 6 inches on all sides, like a real apartment there. The material is Caran d'Ache modeling clay, which doesn't get fired and never hardens. These are only 4 of many of the pieces in the 80s. But this is the material I'm working on now, polymer clay, better known as Sculpey. You fire it in a kitchen oven, it turns into plastic. The trees are about 3 inches tall. The cherries are the size of a pinhead. Now, I am not a cook, but for some reason, I started making tiny food. I began with fruits and vegetables like apples and grapes, chickpeas and squash, moved on to cakes, pies, shrimp, tacos, meatballs, and ham. Now, these are two of my favorites. The Sunday brunch of bagels, lox, and cream cheese, and a table of fatty meats. I especially like making the knives. Once I had all this food, I needed something to put it on. Luckily, I had a lot of popsicle sticks, which were perfect for making tables. They did not come from the craft store. I got them the old-fashioned way, by eating popsicles. The wood is incredibly strong, has to be cut with a chisel. Everything is glued and reinforced. Now, these are 2 art studios, both using lots of popsicle sticks. The canvases are stretched on popsicle sticks. The easels and tables are popsicle sticks. So are all the tiny wood sculptures in the sculptor's studio. The paints, brushes, and plants are Sculpey. And this is my studio, also made of popsicle sticks. It is my favorite place to be, my playground, my refuge, my lady cave. So thank you all for staying awake. Thank you. Thank you. You are so sweet. God bless you.